Welcome, my beautiful souls, and welcome, Sagittarius. This is a special reading for you. I made a post and asked, like, what signs feel like they need a little special attention, and you definitely came in second. So, well, actually, Scorpio came in before you, but I decided to do. I don't know. Something was telling me to do your reading today. So that's what I'm doing. I feel like as I was shuffling the cards, this is when I'm really like meditating or connecting with our guides. I'm really doing both. Letting our guides know that I am ready, am open to do your reading. And what I was picking up is for Sagittarius, I feel like the first half of June had you or has you reflecting. And it may not be comfortable because it feels like it may be like the final push. Because I feel like the second half of June, which we're very close to, you're going to see energy start to lift. You're going to feel better. You're going to be more optimistic, especially if you have used this time of reflection, remembering we're in the universal year 9, right? The year of the hermit, which is all about reflecting. But I feel like, making those decisions of who I'm going to bring along or what I'm going to bring along for the next 9 years, because 2026 will be the year of the magician. That will be a brand new cycle opening up. So that will be your next 9 years. Um, so I just get this feeling some are having a hard time with maybe closing potential doors, but yet at the same time, I want to get you excited for the potential of what wants to enter in your door, what wants to knock on your door. I feel good. So, and to me, it's a big sign of, how the reading's going to be. So I'm feeling good. I understand the energy you're coming from. I'm not going to say everyone, but I do feel like for a lot of you, especially for those who've asked for this reading, you know, you may be having a little hard time doing that final reflection. But remember, reflection is not meant forever. Like, like when you see a number 5, stop, think. Is it asking me for change? What type of change? When you see a 9, I need to reflect on what I've been through. How have I grown? It's made me who I am today. And, you may need to find those little things about yourself, the growth that you've had. I don't know. I just feel proud, is what I'm feeling. So that means your spiritual team is feeling proud, even if you're not feeling proud, by the way. Um, Hopefully, this reading is going to help you. So, we're going to do it like a regular YouTube or like a regular reading I do in YouTube. We're going to bring out all the big guns. I want to break it down. It's going to be a longer reading. Just know that. Know that going in. Um, oh, real quick, I do want to let you know also that I did change my name from Archangel Guidance to the Rambling Psychic. And I know not everyone's crazy about that, but I have to tell you, I felt it very deeply within my intuition. I felt it for years that I needed to change my name. Some feel I'm disrespecting the archangels by doing that. But honestly, I feel like in a way, I've been disrespecting them by carrying that name. So I took the Rambling Psychic. That's how I open up my podcast, by the way. But the rambling part is kind of a twist on humor. Many say I ramble, which I'm doing right now. Um, but, I want to be free to be me at the same time. So that is my new name, the Rambling Psychic. I still think, though, like if you type in Archangel Guidance, that I will still come up, but you'll just see the Rambling Psychic. Okay. So, with all that being said, Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, Rising, those intuitively guided. Thank you so much for paying attention to your intuition. You know, your guides, thank you. For a lot of you, your guides probably nudged you here. You can certainly be in love with the Sagittarius, platonically, romantically. Same thing, just know that your guides, your guides know you're here before you even know you're going to be here. Like they'll use whatever means necessary to get assigned to you. If it's important, they'll find a way to get assigned to you. So many times I feel like the readings are your signs also. Okay. So we're going to use Mother Mary, not use her, but we'll give her the honor of opening up the reading. We will use the Gilded Tarot to clarify. And I'm going to use the Universal Tarot for your main spread. It's interesting, when I did the Twin Flame reading, um, I think I used this for the Divine Masculine. I did both, the masculine and the feminine, in the same reading, and then what connects them. And I'm pretty sure I used this for the masculine. And then we're going to use our major arcanas for bullet points. But enough talking. Let's get the reading open. Okay, bring my lid down. By the way, what do you guys think of that light in the background around my table? Like, I'm torn. Because I'm looking for a very natural setting, and for some reason it feels unnatural to me. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think, because really I do it for you. Okay. Mother Mary, Mother Mary. Sagittarius. A beautiful fire sign. We have feminine. I allow my feminine nature to shine brightly as a valuable part of my identity. Action. Action time. So it's interesting how I feel like, or I felt like the first half of the month, it was you in a state of reflection, but now it feels like it's time to get moving, take action. What's to say? Today I take action related to the priorities that I have previously put off. But I have to tell you, I'm also feeling that there's some new things opening up for you. And it is going to require your action. I love it right next to the feminine. Think of the feminine's energy, like the Empress, loving, nurturing, very creative, powerful, courageous, lots of experience. That's why I feel the Empress is, I want to say that we reach it later in life, but it doesn't have to be that way. Some are just born with this spiritual nature. So again, the Empress. This is someone who doesn't feel the need to put up walls. Why? Because she's been there. She's done that. She knows how to read energy. And she trusts her intuition above all. So I just have a feeling that is a message for you. And then we have truth. Truth. I am lovingly honest with myself and others. Feminine action and truth. Okay. Let's put these over here. And let's bring in the major arcana. So anyone who's new, welcome. First of all, welcome to everyone. I know that you have thousands and thousands of channels to choose from. So I am eternally grateful. And honestly, I hope this reading really brings you a lot of value. I don't do it for fun. I do it for you. If that makes sense. All right. We have the Chariot. It did show in reverse. I don't normally read these cards in reverse, but I'm going to remember it's in reverse. So the Chariot card of Cancer, interesting, this just came in reverse also. The Death card. Two water signs side by side. Let's get the cards out, then we'll talk about them. All right, wasn't going to take this many, but I'm going to. We have the Hangman. Justice. Interesting. It's reminding me a little bit of his reading I just do, Pisces. We have the Magician. And last but certainly not least is Judgment. This is your spiritual team. And they are calling you to the present moment. There's no doubt about it. They're calling you to the present moment. It definitely feels like the time for something has come to an end. You know, like a chapter is now over. You may need to use that sword of justice to truly close the door, end the chapter, cut the ties. You know, the hangman seeking wisdom. So he's looking over at justice almost like maybe like I'm asking for universal permission. You know, maybe there's something I want to leave, but may feel somewhat bad about it. So, in a way, I'm looking for spiritual permission. I feel like you're receiving it. And this really fits with the energy I was feeling as I was shuffling your cards. You know, the final reflection, the closing of a door. But with that closing of a door, there's always a new door that opens up. Well, if we just go past the hangman, who's the one who's seeking the wisdom, you know, the hangman's seeking spiritual wisdom, but to use on this physical plane, he's swaying towards justice. Justice is what's fair and balanced in your world. Justice is about making you whole again, but it can represent that there's some imbalance. But I have a feeling that you have, it really feels like you have all the tools that you need to, you know, maybe take a chance. But it feels like take a chance on yourself. I love Judgment, your spiritual team, mirroring the Chariot, because the Chariot represents unlimited potential. The Chariot is driven by your intentions. Your intentions are 9/10 of the law. You know, I feel like this is something we have to learn if we want a better life. And that's how to read energy. You know, our intentions are energy, but we're telling the universe we're open, we're ready. But it does feel like one of the requirements is that a certain door be closed. Judgment, like calling you into the present moment. And not only that, but I love it's right next to the Magician. Bring that down a little bit more. Right next to the Magician. So when you see Judgment, think of the Fool. Because, again, Judgment calling you to the present moment. Well, that's where the Fool lives, in the present moment. Judgment speaks about a rebirth. Well, so does the Death card. It talks about transformation. Judgment is telling you that there's something that is opening up for you. That's why it's a rebirth. This could be something that you've experienced in a previous life. And honestly, I feel there's nothing to fear. I feel the biggest fear here is it okay for me to use this sword? You know, it's your empathy. Like your empathy sometimes can hold one back. I don't want to hurt someone. But what I would say is if you feel Because when you see the death card, it means that a chapter is, it's run its course. And not everything is meant to last forever. But some things are. And I hope that's what we're moving towards. But your energy, your power, what you possess, these tools that you've gained through your experiences, that's what's going to help you. And I feel like that's what your spiritual team is saying. Like, you have a lot of power that maybe you don't realize yet, but you will. I just trust with judgment here that if you don't realize you have this power yet, you will. All right, let's give them a cut. So we're bringing in the Universal Tarot now, and it will definitely let us know. And by the way, Mother Mary saying action, judgment is kind of the same thing, where the hangman is in a pause, right? There's not movement. Well, Mother Mary's saying action, your spiritual team is saying action. So that means there's going to be something, um, probably a decision. Oh my God. How about that? How about your first card being the Ace of Cups? Is this good? I hope so. It's interesting how I spoke of dealing with something of a past life, and then the Ace of Cups shows up. So I wouldn't be surprised if there could be some soulmates from a previous life. And this just may be what I would call divine timing. All right, let's go in order. We have the Queen of Pentacles, my little psychic detective. We have the King of Swords. Can be Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, but it doesn't have to be. And then the High Priestess. Interesting because the High Priestess is connecting to, I'm actually going to move these over, but is connecting to the Hangman and Justice. It's like trust your intuition to know what is right for you. Your intuition should be pretty strong, but again, there could be a certain energy when you decide to, let's just say, cut it out of your life. I feel like your intuition will just start singing. Again, there could have been something, or there may be something that feels unbalanced, but yet I feel like you have the ability to balance it. I don't feel the chariot would have shown otherwise, because the chariot really requires balance to really become unlimited potential. And it is the balance of the feminine, and the masculine. It's the balance of the light and the shadow within ourselves. It's a symbol of knowing oneself, the good, the bad, the ugly. Okay, but anyway, let's keep going. And by the way, you can be the Queen of Pentacles or the King of Swords, male or female. And it's interesting how I just said I call her my psychic detective, and then the High Priestess comes out, which is your intuition. Hello, Ace of Pentacles. Look at that, two aces in one line. We're actually going to do 5 across. Three of Swords under the Ace of Cups. Well, that makes sense. But the Three of Swords is really something that's already happened. You could have certainly given someone 3 chances. It's like 3 strikes, you're now out. You're out of here. Because the Ace of Pentacles talks about something that's coming in, but it's coming into your physical world. And it's mirroring the Ace of Cups. Interesting. I just realized two aces that are mirroring each other. The Ace of Cups, love, unconditional love, love for oneself. But because the Three of Swords is under it, I feel like it's also probably love of another. But yet, here we have this Ace of Pentacles, so something is coming in, which is exactly what Judgment is telling you. So is the Death card, right? When one door closes, another door opens. Well, hello, Ace of Cups. So I feel like what this is saying is for some, you may have not had it easy in love. There could have been someone who broke your heart, but it feels like over and over and over again. And literally, this chapter may need to come to a close. I guess what you could ask yourself is, are you being respected? Truth by Mother Mary, being very, very honest with oneself. And keep in mind, like, I think of old relationships I was in where you love that person and then they hurt you, you know, beyond repair, really. But yet, the human part of us is like, it's that loss, right? It's that pain that we take on personally. I mean, it is personal, but often I feel in that, if I gave someone three chances, chances are the next person's going to have to give them chances, right? I don't feel like this is talking about anything that evolves. I feel you are evolving. Otherwise, I don't feel the Ace of Pentacles would come in. And how do I love that it's also right next to the High Priestess? The High Priestess is your intuition. But think of it this way, and I know many have heard me say this, but it truly is your GPS in this lifetime. It really is. And the Magician and the High Priestess are the fools, which we are the fool, especially if we're closing a chapter, if we're allowing a rebirth to take place, then we're starting at the fool's energy. And the Magician and the High Priestess are the first two mentors that the Fool meets along this journey. The Magician teaches the Fool that you possess everything you need to be truly successful on this next journey. But you gotta let go of the past, only extract the wisdom. That's what makes you successful. The High Priestess says to the Fool, I am your GPS. Use me. I am a gift. Use me. It reminds me of like, and I know I said this a few times, but like going to a strange city and needing to be at a certain place, but you have no clue where it's at. What do? You type it into your GPS and you follow it. So that's how your spiritual team wants you to look at your intuition. Like, it's not only a gift, it's a tool. And it's available to you 24/7. So, whoever's done this heartbreaking, I feel like, hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Now, I know it may not be easy to say that. And it is up to you because this is a free will decision. All right, let's keep going. I like the Queen of Pentacles sitting here with this big old pentacle in her lap. Again, I call her my psychic detective. But, when I do a reading, I really feel like you're all people in the reading unless we feel it differently, or our spiritual team will let us know. But right now, it feels more like you. All right, Eight of Swords. Well, that's the door that needs to close for sure. And then the Knight of Wands. Interesting. So, Eight of Swords. It's called a self-created prison. This is when we're not being truthful with ourselves. This is when we're not listening to our intuition. This is the opposite of what the Empress would do. And why is that? Because, the Empress has also gone through, and I feel like many of us are the Empress, but has gone through a lot of experiences, but has extracted the wisdom. The one thing the Empress has learned is, why shut my heart down because of someone else? Because someone else didn't know how to love me. Why shut my heart down? Why make that the end for me? It's really the end for them. And I get it. Some of you may have been like, love is not really on the table anymore. Yet it really is on the table. Like ready or not, it's still on the table. So this is an 8. 8 is about a new beginning. It's also the number infinity. Some of you, there could have been something from past life that wasn't completed. And now the opportunity may arise for completion. And if you think about that, it's kind of beautiful. Not kinda, it really is beautiful. So I guess in the Three of Swords, I need to ask myself, other than taking these swords, maybe that's one of the questions I need to ask. Like, why did I keep taking these swords? And I feel like each time you took a sword, you believed a little less and less in yourself. But listen, this is an impossible energy. This is energy that you can change because the Eight of Swords self-created. That means that you are the one who can uncreate it. You're really the only one. It is a human action. It's a free will action. And judgment can point it out. I mean, put the sun on it. But it has to be you to bring down those walls. I feel like part of evolving is learning not to allow past energy or even past lovers who just didn't love us in the way that we had hoped for. We cannot give away our energy because of them. I've been there. I've done that. But yet, I did take a leap of faith with the person I'm with now. And it is going to be forever. I just know it. I feel it. So, anyways, all right, let's keep going. So, this King of Swords has a Knight of Wands below him, and he's heading right towards the Eight of Swords. So, Knight of Pentacles or Knight of Wands talks about passion coming in. It is definitely action oriented, but it's feeling, inspiration, or it's feeling someone's passion. But are you feeling it? That's the thing. Because it's being met by the Eight of Swords. Can someone help you bring these walls down? Hmm? Hello, lovers. That just kind of changes everything. First of all, I want you to notice how these lovers are being influenced by the angels. Also, notice how they're naked. To me, that represents each being comfortable in their own skin. You know, the lessons I have learned have helped me shed old skin. Right under the high priestess, right next to the energy of passion. It is the card of Gemini. The meaning is ahead of a hard decision, and that may be part of it, right? The hangman is seeking wisdom, but it looks like he's seeking wisdom on whether to use that sword to rebalance oneself, if nothing else. So the lovers does put the question on you, like, do you follow your head or do you follow your heart? Well, yes, it is showing that that you had a broken heart, but I don't feel like this has anything to do with this. I feel like the Three of Swords and the Eight of Swords is what the Death card is asking you to close the door to. It's what Judgment is saying also. Like, there is a new opportunity opening up, but one doesn't fit with the other. We have the Hangman. Slow down, you move too fast. Don't you want the night to last? Interesting. Two hangmen. Hangman coming under the Ace of Pentacles. Hmm. You know, I'm just going to say this, but I feel like, do I feel like there's the potential of blocking this Ace of Pentacles and this Ace of Cups? I do. I do. Or it may have you rethinking everything. Listen, I don't feel like the lovers showed up as a warning. Quite the opposite. Especially when we opened this up with the Ace of Cups and the Ace of Pentacles. The Ace of Pentacles means it's coming into your physical world. Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. But the hangman's kind of like, wait a minute, you move too fast. All right, let's see what's on the bottom of the deck. The Hermit. That's exactly the energy I felt like you've been in. But listen, it's probably important. You know, that Hermit is seeking spiritual clarity. The Hermit is looking for the light. And what the Hermit ultimately realizes is, I am the light. I am my own savior. You know, it's about how you have grown. Don't judge yourself. Quite the opposite. Even if you've messed up, don't look at it as a mess up. Look at it as, okay, I learned that. Also, Carter Virgo, by the way. We have the Queen of Wands, so you're right under there. You're right underneath the Hermit. Hmm. So you have quite a bit of energy of letting go, letting this new door open. I guess you have to put real trust within your spiritual team here because what they are offering, let's say, I feel like you will want. And I feel like the only thing that would stop you would be fear. And I understand that, right? You don't want your heart broken again. And the Eight of Swords does feel like you're protecting yourself. But that's not stopping this energy. This just may be the right time. And that's that. Ready or not, here I come. I know I keep saying that, but that's what I feel. All right, let's take the Gilded Tarot over this. All right, let's give them a cut. Reason why I always cut my cards, by the way, for those who wonder, I like to introduce each deck into the existing reading. Like we want to continue on now. Okay. We have the King of Cups, connected right up there to the Chariot, so for some it could be Cancer, but we'll see. I'm not quite ready to give him the green light. I don't know why. Hello, Ten of Cups. The Magician. Over the King of Swords. The King of Wands. Over the High Priestess. And then, hello, Nine of Pentacles. Wow. So, Nine of Pentacles. Let's talk about what we have in front of us for a second. Nine of Pentacles. By the way, another card of Virgo, so we do have double Virgo. But it really speaks about what you're doing for a living, your creativity, what you're building in the world. I kind of love that the Ace of Pentacles is coming over that. Because I feel like this can represent like new avenues, new ways of making money. For some of you, this could be like a side hustle that becomes your main hustle. And then you add that pentacle to the Nine of Pentacles. Well, that turns into the Ten of Pentacles. We have the Ten of Cups. Holy cow, right? We have the Magician right in the middle. Something is telling me that this King of Cups, and again, kind of forget the sign, because, he showed, like, when I looked at him, I'm like, are you reverse? And let's just say the King of Cups in reverse has no problem giving their attention to others. They are attention seekers. So this nine over here and justice could be seeing some of you cutting those ties. Something is telling me this king is what caused the Three of Swords. This is not about, well, I mean, it is about this, right? Because that energy still exists. But yet, if we look at what's mirroring it, when I see a nine, I do think singular. but not forever. Matter of fact, probably not for long at all. And it's interesting because we see the Queen of Wands right there, who is in this state of reflection. We see the King of Wands, who is over the High Priestess, but also connecting to justice. And I often feel this, where when our spiritual team gets involved, let's say in our love life, wow, the more we can go with the flow and trust in that. Again, I get the sense for some of you that there's a love coming into your life that you have not seen since a previous lifetime. Well, I shouldn't say that because in between you reconnected. But then when you made the choice to come into this lifetime, it just kind of feels like the right time. Like each needed to go through their own things. You uncreate this prison, so to speak. It's freedom. It's the feeling of freedom. It's the feeling to do whatever you want to do. But now there's a big difference. Now you're trusting your intuition. Now you're using the energy of the magician and you're manifesting. But what I was going to say is there may be two of you who would be the lovers, where both of you have to make this decision about using that sort of justice. So whether that be ending a current relationship, a marriage, but listen, I'm not telling anyone to end a marriage. It would be something you already feel, but maybe fear kind of holds you in place. I feel like if anything, your spiritual team is trying to show you that there is a lot of living to do. You know, there's a lot of experiences that you probably do not expect, but your intuition may give you some clues. All right. Well, let's go on to the king and let's see. Okay, so I felt that right. Ten of Swords over the Three of Swords. Dagger after dagger in your back. I feel like the Ten of Swords really becomes the energy of submission. Mother Mary has a card, optimism. I expect good things to happen, and they do. Well, in this energy, I expect bad things to happen, and I'll be damned, they do. So, what do I do about this? Got to be real, truthful with yourself. Does somebody have you, or are you in a repeat pattern with someone that keeps ending up in heartbreak for you? Is it really what you want to bring along for this new chapter? Again, we see these two nines. I just feel like I totally get this energy where, I've probably fallen in love here, but yet maybe, the world was promised to me, but really nothing was delivered. Often feel in the Ten of Swords, it could be certainly narcissistic type energy. They tell me what I want to hear, and then bam, they put a dagger in my back. So I do feel like this king was meant to stay in reverse because I do not feel that he is our person. He or she, by the way. This is who was. This is the energy that some are still carrying around. You know, we have the Ten of Swords, but we have the Ten of Cups. Which house do I want to live in? Okay. You know, we can pray and hope that someone turns around, that someone recognizes what they've done. But I just don't feel it here, to be honest. I just don't feel it. You know, and listen, I was married to the King of Cups in reverse. And that was hard because he did give his love and attention, so to speak, to others often. And I was even in the Eight of Swords for a while. High Priestess, your intuition. But look at this. The Eight of Cups, or the Eight of Swords again, now over the Knight of Wands. So the energy that's bringing in this passion, look how it's being met by the Eight of Swords, over it and beside it. Bummer. Definitely is calling for you to use your intuition here. And I feel like that could be a hard call to answer when I'm in the Eight of Swords. But remember, you can uncreate this energy, and it really is up to you. That means bringing the walls down. It means taking a chance. I feel like when the Eight of Swords flips around, it's freedom. We have the Two of Pentacles. That makes sense coming over the Lovers because it is ahead of a hard decision. We have the Seven of Cups over the Hangman. We have the Ace of Swords mirroring the Ace of Cups. Look at that, the Three of Swords again. And then we have the Page of Pentacles. Okay, so I feel like the Page of Pentacles is letting us know that some of the things that we've been dealing with were really to help teach us. And, you know, I know that's hard to hear for some, but I do feel it's the truth. Like, this is about learning, expanding, and even reclaiming one's power, reclaiming one's voice, and reclaiming one's life. You know, our spiritual team would say that life is too short to allow those who disrespect you, break your heart. And you've given them, it feels like chances after chances, but it keeps turning into the same energy. I mean, the Three of Swords now over the Eight of Swords, with the Three of Swords next to it, and the Ten of Swords over that. Truthful. What am I hanging on to here? What am I hanging on to? Is it simply fear, the fear of change? Like, what will my life look like? Well, you know, I won't lie. Temporarily, it can feel a little difficult. But the truth is, when the Eight of Swords is uncreated, it really is the feeling of freedom. And the Page of Pentacles being under that, it's like a soul's lesson. And boy, do I feel like when you uncreate those walls, right, you set yourself free. I feel power with that. I feel like this means that these are lessons that you can, when I'm talking about past lives, it's interesting because this could also be a past life karmic lover. And maybe there wasn't a lesson. Maybe there was a lesson, but it wasn't learned. And maybe like I don't know why I'm feeling this, but I feel like the first half of my life, I'm learning these lessons. Or I have the opportunity. And remember, if they're karmic lessons and you do have the opportunity to learn, then you never have to repeat those lessons. If this person over here is a narcissist, which totally fits, well, I don't see you ever being with a narcissist after that. Why? Because you'll feel that energy, you'll know that. And yes, narcissists are very good at making you believe that everything is going to be beautiful. But your intuition will tell you otherwise. It's like we get those red flags. And I know I've ignored many of them, especially in my younger when I don't ignore them now, but in my younger years, I know I ignored them. I know I saw those red flags. I felt them. But I wanted what I wanted. Well, what a lesson it taught me. But honestly, I feel like it helps ease the heartache knowing that this was, number one, I feel like how do I want to say this? Let me put it this way. I feel like your spiritual team is trying to remind you of who you are on a spiritual level, how strong you are, wisdoms of many lifetimes. When I see the hermit, I often think that like an old soul. And really, there's nothing I can get through. And that's why I feel like the hermit is the one who finds the light. Maybe I am waiting for someone to save me. But what I figure out is I'm the one who saves me. That's what the Eight of Swords is all about. Okay. I totally understand why you needed this reading. And, I feel like the best thing I can say at this moment is I feel there are great opportunities ready to show, but you need to be ready for them at the same time. All right, we have beautiful. The Knight of Pentacles coming under the Lovers, connecting to the Two of Pentacles, where you're making a decision, connecting to the King of Wands, who's got the High Priestess underneath him. So the Knight of Pentacles to me is a guardian angel energy. The Knight of Pentacles talks about Pentacle that this knight brings in, but it brings it in the right time, not before, not after. So when this pentacle that this knight brings, and by the way, this knight doesn't bring just a pentacle. It's like the more, I don't know, I feel like the more you recognize that some of these things they have a spiritual lens to them, and you're feeling that, then what this night brings, it continues. And what this night brings is actually showing, bringing the lovers into your world. But it does feel like you're single first. We have the death card. That goes right back up to the death card there. The Eight of Wands, what I think about, I bring about. Look at this, the Ace of Pentacles again. We have some synchronicities going on. And then Justice again. Okay. Well, kind of looks like two people are going through very similar type energies. It's like the Knight of Pentacles, whose promise is, I come in the right time. Right when you're ready to receive me, not before. So if this Eight of Swords is still created, let's say, I don't feel like that would be the right time for the Knight. But here is this Ace again. Here's this Ace again. So I feel like there's definitely some similarities. And, I also want to say for some of you, you may know who this person is because you may get a phone call saying that they themselves have ended something, probably a relationship, that they are free and clear. It reminds me of soulmates. And that's probably why I felt for some of you it's past lives also. And I do feel like past life karma that is followed into this lifetime, but it's an opportunity to clear that karma. And sometimes simply it's the walking away of those who are not respecting you anyway. It's the reclaiming of your power. Over here, I would just say that I feel like whatever, like, okay, so this king's over the Ace of Cups. But now, first of all, I want to say I feel like the Ace of Cups, it's still coming in. But I feel like this king over the Ace of Cups is old energy. And I just can't see it continuing and you being happy. And that may be why Mother Mary is saying truth is so important. Like someone definitely stopped you in your tracks. But I have a feeling it happened over here too. So interesting how we saw the Queen of Wands. We have the King of Wands. I feel like that is talking about like-minded energy. Excuse me one second. Okay, sorry about that. I was just gone for a second. Um, so anyway, I think what I want to do, I want to move this king because I feel like he's yesterday's news. And I want to look at this Ace of Cups. Look at that, the Nine of Cups. Goodbye, King. Goodbye, King. Why can't I hold this card? My friends, this is inner fulfillment. This is inner fulfillment. And how do you reach this? By letting go. You know, I feel like be very honest with yourself. If someone is not loving you in the way that you deserve, and you deserve to be loved fully, then don't try not to waste your energy. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't give all your time to someone who, well, is not giving you their time. Now, I do have to say that I know exactly what this is talking about. So the Nine of Cups is also fulfillment of wishes. But what I'm noticing are these two nines that are now mirroring each other as I move this king out. Because I feel like it's exactly what we need to do. King needs to go behind this door that we're closing. And what does that bring you? It brings you, number one, to a single status, but there is that freedom. And listen, I don't feel like you realize that until you realize that. But it's also a fulfillment of wishes. Boy, do I feel like two people are going through very similar energies. Some of you are connected to a Pisces, and I'm only saying that because I see the similarities between the readings also. Now, I know there's only a couple, but I don't want to leave that off the table. So, fulfillment of wishes. And then what's the very next card? That 10 of Cups. Now, this 10 of Cups feels real. It feels real. Okay. Um, healing. What are you healing? First of all, there's three swords. Here's the three swords. Healing of that heart. There's one sword left. And this, to me, represents the healing of the mind, one's own truth, knowing oneself without judgment. And I say that because for some of you, you could certainly talk about, that maybe you don't think you're going to heal. Maybe you're afraid that three of swords won't go away. But it feels like it is through human action. Like you can allow this to go away. And then the healing process just feels like it automatically takes place. And by the way, I don't feel like you need to be perfectly healed before what seems to be next comes into the door. So let's follow that Four of Swords because I really don't have anything here left to question. So I just want to know anything else that maybe I missed. Let's not forget that the Lovers, yes, the meaning is ahead of a hard decision, and that is going to be part of it. Look at this, the Six of Cups. Someone that I used to know. Now, this would represent nostalgia, treasured memories. Can talk about someone you knew from way back in the day. That's my life. Can certainly relate back to this past life that I've been feeling. But listen, it's interesting because I feel like there's two things that followed you from a past life. First was the karma that just wasn't completed, which is normal. Many times it can take us lifetimes to ultimately complete this karma. But this lifetime feels like the lifetime you do it. And then the rewards that follow. I call them rewards, but really it's you evolving. And everything starts to feel like a reward. We have this Ace of Swords, and I don't know. Some of you just might be surprised that communication comes in that kind of changes everything. And I don't feel like you're completely healed, but I do feel like you're no longer giving someone a chance, like you're done. And that's what opens up this new chapter. By the way, it's 6 June. I mean, why would I need to wait till November, let's say? It feels like, again, the Knight of Pentacles, which is really a very important energy here, because it really is the promise of what this Knight brings. It brings a pentacle, but it means this pentacle is truly meant to enhance your life. That's why it comes at the right time. Otherwise, it would just be wasted. But now that I see these 2 9s, and because I feel like we are talking about 2 different people who are going through similar situations, which totally makes sense because I definitely feel soulmate energy. Even though we don't have the soulmates out, doesn't matter. I feel it. Karmic soulmate, but then a loving soulmate. All right, well, let's keep going. I see the beautiful butterflies in there. And I have to tell you, I watched a movie the other day or the other night, and at the end of the movie, a butterfly landed on this person's finger. And to them, they had said it before the butterfly landed that it was a symbol, that it was someone who has crossed over, a symbol. And I'm seeing that butterfly. So I feel like what that means is, part of your spiritual team, some of them you've lived this lifetime with. Hello, Knight of Cups. Wow. Unexpected cup of fulfillment. Unexpected. It's interesting because it's unexpected. But yet, I feel like your intuition can certainly give you the clue. Just means you didn't expect it to happen. But it happens nonetheless. That's the thing. I feel like this energy is going to happen no matter what. It's how it's going to be met. It's either going to be met with the Eight of Swords, which in a way, to me, is like turning it down, or it's going to be met with the Nine of Cups. Again, that inner fulfillment. And the fulfillment of wishes. Well, the fulfillment of a wish is showing it's over the Ace of Cups and right next to the Ten of Cups. So who better to usher that in than the Knight of Cups? I'm telling you, some of you, you're going to receive, I want to say an unexpected phone call, but I'm just going to say unexpected communication that I feel like is going to change everything. It's going to change the way you look at the world. It's going to change the way you look at yourself. I feel like this person coming in, that, especially if they know that you were dealing with like a narcissistic type energy, and I'm saying narcissistic type because it may not be an actual narcissist, but they had the tendencies. So someone comes in and they know what you've been dealing with. then they understand that they have to use kid gloves. But I feel like that's not a problem. That's not a problem. The world, the next chapter, Sagittarius. Wow. Love is part of this new chapter. It just is. This is why this reflection of the hermit is so important. Honestly, like, I feel like we need to take this year very seriously, the year of the hermit, and make some bold choices and decisions. What and who do I want to be part of this next chapter? And by the way, the world speaks of enlightenment. It's ultimately, when you think of anything that's new, again, the foal's journey is ultimately to the world enlightenment. But you're not the only one that's having this enlightenment. So is someone who carries very like-minded energy. And I'm not saying they have to be the same sign. Just forget about the signs. Because as this comes in, you should be able to feel the difference, especially if you're really trusting your intuition. And by the way, as we're learning to trust our intuition, sometimes we may feel like, I'm not really sure. Was that a sign? Please, your spirit guides want you just to tell them, like, I am not sure if that was a sign. Please send it again. They will. I feel like the majority of you who reached out for this reading is because you're in that final stage of true reflection. You are thinking of what has got to go. Let's put it a different way. Hopefully, what this is having you do is visualize the life you can have versus the life that somehow you got stuck in. Don't put blame on yourself. Just understand, what did I learn from this? And sometimes the lesson is literally to know what you do not want. The lovers, it makes perfect sense in this reading. Because, yes, ahead of a hard decision. I know I said that a few times. But it is much more than that. The lovers is great chemistry. And again, just remembering that they're both naked, which means they're both being and feeling comfortable in their own skin. That means there's no need to wear any mask or facades. Be who you are. These two nines, it feels like two people who have freed themselves. And each of them is sitting over an ace. That's beautiful. So I guess the best thing I can say here is sometimes it's paramount that we close chapters. Wow. It's like hang on to your hat for the second part of the month. And what I love also about the world's energy, it is about enlightenment. It is your truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. This is very spiritual energy. This is two in this enlightened energy. And although, how do I say this? Like, I don't give predictions, I give potentials. And I feel like this is saying, because when I see the world, I feel like this is something that may last for the rest of this lifetime and probably beyond. It just fits perfectly. All right. I'm going to bring out the clarifying love situations and then I'm going to let it be. I feel like, why does this King of Cups have any right in your life? Because I feel like they've done more harm, though that's on a human level, than good. I say it's on a human level because I feel your spirituality, your spiritual being will understand that, you know, it's just merely a person. I mean, it's a soul, don't get me wrong, but it's a soul who's more comfortable living in the dark energy than the light. And that's just that. It just means, to me, it feels like someone who just feels like they don't have, like they may make a commitment, but I don't feel like they have any care in fulfilling that commitment. Doesn't mean they weren't in love, but that doesn't stop them from sharing their love with others. And I don't want that for you. Dance of souls. Be vulnerable and let your two hearts, well, let your two hearts intertwine. Be vulnerable and let your two hearts intertwine. Trusted ties. Trusted ties. Build rapport. Believe in mutual respect and respond with understanding. And then last but not least, beyond compare. Don't compare your love to anyone else. It's unique. Well, I know what it's talking about. It's not talking about this. It's talking about this. And I feel like build rapport, believe in mutual respect, and respond with understanding. Really, what I feel like that's speaking about is, you don't have to move everything so quickly. If you're not 100% sure about something, just take a step into it. That's what the Fool does. Just takes a leap of faith, but also knows that I can change course at any time. I don't think you're going to want to, but you can tell yourself that, right? Just because I step upon this path doesn't mean I have to fulfill the whole path. If it feels right, then I'm going to go forward. But if it doesn't feel right, then that's when I put an end to it. This all feels right, where this does not feel right. All right, I'm going to let that be. I'm going to remind you that Mother Mary is calling for your feminine energy. Usually, when Mother Mary is calling for your feminine energy, it's speaking of love, but it's speaking of openness. And then action, you know, just taking that step forward. and truth. Just being honest with oneself, even if it hurts, it's worth it. You know, when we get stuck in the Ten of Swords and the Three of Swords type of energy, and it definitely feels like you gave someone many chances. It's hard to see, what's that saying, the forest through the trees. It's hard to see the silver lining, but there is always a silver lining. But it does start with us and our truth. And then just letting divine like work in your life, in all areas of your life. But man, right now they're working in your love life. All right, I'm going to let that be. You know, it's interesting, but I feel like these special readings, there does seem to be a lot of information in them. And I know that they're long, but sometimes I feel like you do need to watch your reading twice. And here's why. I feel like the first time you watch it, you're using more of the spirit, your human ears. But then you revisit it. Let's say you make that ultimate decision to cut ties, and then you revisit the reading. Wow, I promise you, new messages will appear. You'll hear them in different ways. I know it's a fact. It happens in my personal readings all the time. And I tell people in my personal readings, watch it more than once. Keep it in your back pocket. Now, I'm not saying you have to keep this in your back pocket, but I just know the way the spirit works. When you're ready to hear a message, you will hear the message. All right, I'm going to let that be, guys. I love you. I thank you. I'm happy you reached out because, you know, this is why I do tarot. It is to help. And it's helped me tremendously. Like, I have to say, my spirituality has grown leaps and bounds. It just has. And I feel like the more I can help, I don't know, like that is my payoff. That is my reward. So, go let that be. I love you. I thank you. I'll see you next time at the reading. Also, let me know what you think about those lights. Be honest. Should I or love you guys? Bye bye.